All right. Well, I have the recording going, so we don't have to worry about that part today.
Gotcha. But you can hear me now, okay?
You're a little low, but otherwise suitable.
Okay.
Suitable.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. I did not know this at all.
That's okay. I was going to start without you. Hunter, who else? Do we have any other of the coordinators here? Oh, there's Hunter. Okay.
I'm here, yeah.
Awesome. And like I said, I think Olivia's not here, but I think...
Yeah, I claimed a couple of the first slides.
Awesome.
So Olivia wouldn't have to, but I think I claimed a little too many, so I apologize to the other coordinators. I'll be talking too much.
Well, they can just fight you for it next time.
Yes.
Or this time. Thumb wrestle. Peaceful conflict. Rock, paper, scissors.
There we go.
All right. I think we have some people who need to leave relatively soon. So let's get this kicked off if that's okay with you guys. We are at like 126.
130.
So.
Yep. Okay. In that case, welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday. We have just a few things on the agenda today, but we need to quickly get to the first thing on our list. So next slide. Today we have final pitches, and then we go straight into project pairing. And we'll describe what project pairing is after these final pitches. Next slide. And of course, we're also going to announce the mentors after the pitches. And I could just say, everyone who applied, we accepted to be a mentor. So thank you to all of that. And we'll have another note at the end of this. Next slide, and we'll get straight into the final pitches.
Yeah, if I can just throw out there, I think we're still looking for mentors, or are we done now?
Yes, we do still have a call for mentors, though.
So yeah, so it's not too late.
Okay, so here is the order of our pitches. We have Albany Can Code, New Valence Opportunities, a couple more IBM projects, and then we're slipping in Submitting. And I think, Professor, you can introduce, starting with Albany Can Code on the next slide.
All right. Abe, are you guys ready, or do you want to present, or do you want to just talk?
It would help to unmute myself. No, I don't have anything to present. I'm happy to just talk. And I'm not sure, is Anne-Marie on the call? Doesn't look like it. So that's totally fine. Do you want me to go for it?
Please.
All right, cool. So I am part of the Albany Can Code team. We're based in the Capital Region and in the Hudson Valley. We were founded in 2016 as a workforce training program, although originally when Anne-Marie Lannacy, our founder, started, oh, she's right there.
She just came in, yeah.
Perfect timing.
Anne-Marie, do you want to give the quick 90-second pitch of Albany Can Code, and then I'll talk about what we're looking for?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Hi, everybody. Anne-Marie Lannacy here. RPI alumni, class of, let's see if it'll come back to me, 2001 and 2003. 2001, I was an EMAC undergrad. In 2003, actually 2004 is when I finished my master's in electronic arts. And so I have a software company based in downtown Troy at the time, 5 years ago when I founded Albany Can Code. That company's called Green Tree Technology. And at that company, we were having a really hard time finding software developers. Still a problem across the capital region, across the state, and across the country, even through the pandemic. And I hired a guy that had never gone to college, worked in a kitchen. And he sat side by side with one of our engineers who had a 4-year degree, and he was able to keep up with him. And it made me realize there are people all across our communities that have the aptitude for these jobs, and they don't realize it because they didn't have the pathways like we have had, these tremendous opportunities to get these great educations. And so we set out to do a training program, and off we went, and it turned into Albany Can Code, and we're celebrating 5 years this summer. We have a ton of work that we're doing to train people in communities in computer science education and also digital literacy. So that's to teach people that don't know how to use computers at all, how to use computers. So that's a really short overview of the work that we do. And the only other thing I'll add to that is that we're really looking to bring more diversity into the tech sector. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that may have been a mistake.
Mike was unmuted. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So I'll jump in there and talk a little bit about what we're looking for. So there are a couple of areas that we were thinking RCOS might be able to, or RCOS students involved in RCOS might be able to help us with. And one is that we have always, one of the things that I think is really important for anybody who's involved in the software industry is around open source, the open source community. It's a really huge part of not only the languages that you're working with and how you might move those languages forward and move those tools forward, but also the career growth that being part of that community can provide. And so we're in general interested in ways that we can enhance the emphasis on open source learning or provide more about the open source world to our students. A lot of our training is really focused on the specific technologies. So that's an area that, we're kind of eager to beef up our curriculum. But also one thing that we would really love to, a really direct way that we can, engage with volunteers is especially folks from, that are like the folks on this call is as teaching assistants. And we have our spring semester is going to be beginning later this month. All of our courses, all of our adult workforce courses, which is what we're talking about here, are 2 nights a week, and we would be excited to have teaching assistants to TA the courses. They could be, the way that the role of TAs really differs depending on the course, and also depending on the instructor. What you would be doing is you would be working with students that often come from a non-traditional background, so they might not be college grads. They're definitely, in many cases, they're going to be folks that haven't participated in the tech industry before. So really our ethos is lowering the barrier to entry in the tech industry. And so this would be a way of kind of helping us achieve that mission, and actually getting, involved with some of these technologies, helping to teach them, helping with some of the administrative stuff. Although there's really, the way that we approach things, there's not a huge administrative lift. So a lot of it is just giving extra help to students. We use Microsoft Teams. So there's, and it's all live instruction. So we have the classroom setting, the virtual classroom setting, which everyone is well familiar with on this call, I'm sure. And then we also have breakout rooms where we can give one-on-one help. So we have, each course has about 72 hours of in-class instruction. That doesn't necessarily mean that TAs are always needed for the, every hour of every class. There might be, opportunities to help students one-on-one and to kind of move those schedules around. We have 4 classes that are beginning in February. One is our kind of one of our main courses that we always teach every semester, which is front-end web development. We have a course on Python for data analytics. We have a course which is a totally new course for us, which is Microsoft Power Platform in Azure. And we have a JavaScript frameworks course, which is our most advanced course on JavaScript. So we have, you learn some JavaScript in the front-end web development course. Then we have a JavaScript fundamentals class. And then above that, we have JavaScript frameworks. So this is the JavaScript frameworks course. We get into specific frameworks and kind of go a little bit deeper with the technology. And hopefully that's a good overview. I don't exactly know the format of this session that we're in right now, if I can take questions or if we should do and discuss. So I will let Wes or whoever lead from there, and hopefully that provides a good overview.
Thank you. Yeah. If you have a quick question, I think we can probably get 1 or 2 in. But in general, we're trying to keep this moving, and we do have the Discord. I think you guys may have some problems manning that, but the Discord is a nice place to type in. Yeah. If we could also post that in the Discord, and the Discord's a good place if you guys could come back and visit that a couple of times. I know that a lot of us are interested in this, and we have actually for a similar, Coding and Community was more involved with high school, but they we had some people here who are actually developing curriculum and teaching courses there as well. So, this seems to be kind of in our wheelhouse. Not seeing anything come up. All right, let's move on. I think Jason, you and Sinclair are going to talk. I'm calling it New Valence Opportunities because I didn't know what else to call it.
Yeah, that works. Sinclair, are you on? And I saw you were on. Were you able to kick things off? All right. So,
do you want to present or just want to talk?
No.
Yeah. Sinclair is just going to talk, and I'll share some slides towards the end.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Great, yeah. So thanks for the invite, Jason and Wes. I want to spend a little time talking about New Valence, but tell a little bit of a story. So I'm an RPI grad, graduated in 2004, and I graduated with computer science math dual and spent the early part of my career as a software developer. I worked at Morgan Stanley and then went on to work at a couple of other places. But in 2007, founded my first company, raised a lot of venture capital, built a business around it, and we had built at the time a cluster technology that we licensed to really large enterprises. So imagine, the Boeings and JP Morgans of the world, like that class of large organization. And they used our tech in a couple of interesting ways. One way that it got used was to use this cluster technology to run large portfolios of many apps. So imagine having 1,000, multi-tier apps and microservices, and you have to have a home for them rather than deploying them to individual containers or virtual machines. You would instead deploy to this cluster, and we'd expose a couple of APIs, an API for the IT department to run this cluster, and one for the developers who wanted to push and manage their apps. So they didn't really have to deal with the intricacy of deployment. And what's fascinating over the 10-year period of that company was that toward the end of Apprenda, and that was 2018, we had seen for a couple of years a really interesting use case emerge. These big companies were now using our tech to power some fairly sophisticated strategic use cases. They were using our technology to be the foundation for some things that were, in an interesting way, kind of world-changing, new approaches to, say, how you might power technology that supports data coming off of IoT devices, and that kind of stuck. So in 2018, my co-founders and I at New Valence decided to start a new business, New Valence. And this was in October of 2018. And what we said was, look, we spent 10 years with Apprenda really learning about some highly strategic technical scenarios and use cases with these large enterprises. Why don't we take that knowledge and turn it into a consulting company? And what we could focus on instead of general purpose consulting is let's go after some of the most challenging problems that non-software companies are pursuing. So pick automotive manufacturers, agri-pharma companies, that sort of class of client, and not so much a software company. And what are they doing to reinvent themselves? And how can we participate as consultants that will help develop these at-scale cloud systems to support that? So we started in 2018. It was just 5 of us. We're almost 60 people now, about 2 years later. And the types of projects that we work on tend to be, again, very strategic in nature, typically to transform and reinvent how that company does business. So simple example, one of our clients is a big auto manufacturer, and we're leading the charge on a bunch of architecture and development for their self-driving car platforms. Another one of our clients that we had done a significant amount of work for was in the renewable energy space, where they were taking data from thousands of wind turbines and solar farms and building these big data pipelines to very quickly analyze where there were power drops and power curve losses, and how could they allow third parties to build apps that plugged into that so you could very quickly take advantage of the metrics that were flowing through the system. And it was fascinating because it was about 1 million data points a minute that we had to stream process. The reason we go after these things is that it's really exciting for us, right? We're builders. We like problems that require a lot of curiosity, and we get to invest a lot of energy in inventing new technological approaches to solving new problems in these spaces. And it's also the type of thing that, fast forward 10 years from now, it'd be great to look back and say, oh, wow, we participated in the autonomous vehicle space, or in the renewable energy space, or in doing machine learning for demographic assessment, right? It's all this interesting stuff that pops up. And, in that process, one of the things that occurred to us is that it's just really important to support the communities around you that actually have that sort of curiosity DNA baked in, and I think RCOS is one of those communities. So we sponsored and put together some awards that hopefully can help fuel some of the innovation here. It's a pretty exciting time to be in. There's so much going on in the tech space. It's just like this Cambrian explosion of new services popping up in cloud every day. And to the extent that we can be a small part of that, we'd be excited to. And we're growing this business very quickly. We have, even right now, 30 or 35 open headcount. We are hoping to be about 100 people by September. And it's growing faster than in some ways we can keep pace with. So, as some of you might be graduating seniors or you're moving through that, certainly take a look. It's an opportunity to join a company that's doing some really interesting things. And, to the extent that we can, like I said before, we love supporting folks that are on these curious endeavors and want to explore new technologies and new tracks. I'll pause there and I'll turn it back over to Jason. You're muted, Jason.
Yeah, there we go. So when Claire came to me and talked about the cool things they were doing at New Valence, RCOS was definitely top on my list. So I'm Jason Cruz, director of the Reno Center for Technological Entrepreneurship. A lot of the projects in here aren't necessarily entrepreneurial when they start, but there's just a lot of potential for the types of things that come out of RCOS. And we wanted to really engage this group of builders on campus in ways that we currently aren't, just by kind of talking about entrepreneurship. So we want to facilitate building. And when Sinclair came to us, we came up with a couple ideas, and these are really new for this year, but we wanted to put them out there for kind of version 1 and ask for your help to shape this into something that we can make a critical component of how the Reno Center interacts and supports the campus. One idea that came out was this idea of providing seed hardware or seed AWS services to RCOS projects or to RCOS students. A second is to really recognize the serial builders, the people really building really cool things. Even if it's not entrepreneurial, we want to recognize that and get more awareness of the RPI students that are doing that. And then finally, find ways of supporting more of the research experience. And I know that this is a busy meeting, but we're really happy to try ideas on this. So first off is this hardware area. I know there are a number of RCOS projects using deep learning. One idea might be to buy a Lambda computer, some NVIDIA, Jetsons, things like that. If there's AWS web services that you need to support your project, that also could fit in. So you'll be able to apply, and I put all the information on the Discord in the slides, so you can find the information you need to apply. For the Builder Award, we'll be giving away $5,000 this spring to people who have really demonstrated their capabilities as builders. So this is kind of an alternative to our business model competition. And we want to focus with the RCOS community as one of the central points of that. And then the research experience is a small program, but we want to continue. This is meant for juniors, and the idea was to allow for the Arch semester. We're getting a little bit of a late start, but we'll have opportunities for people to do applied research and fund some of the research enterprise here, and hopefully find ways to connect it better with RCOS. The links of how to apply will be in the Discord channel, and I'll put it in the chat as well. And I'll just also plug that Anne-Marie Lanasee and Sinclair are part of our Impactful Innovator series. You can get a one credit just by listening to the kind of incredible stories of RPI entrepreneurs. We've got a great lineup for this semester, and it's held on Wednesday nights at 4:45. But would love to have more crossover from RCOS to this group. Thanks for your time.
So that's a little bit different from our general pitch opportunities, but it was too good of a thing and it needed to come too early in the semester to let this one pass up. So as you're thinking about your projects, one of the cool things you can do is think about how to, and I see what we're doing, is think about how we can make these actually roll some of these opportunities into maybe some of the other work you're doing, or figure out how you build something cool so you can apply for a builder's award. So anyway, thank you, Sinclair and Jason. That was a really awesome opportunity. All right. I think we have.
Hey, Wes.
Hi. Oh, good. I'm glad you're there. I couldn't. I'm in the E's and I'm furiously going down to the J's to see if you are available. You want to present, Javier? Yes,
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. And I have a couple of things here to show you guys. My name is Javier Perez. I'm an open source program manager, part of the IBM Z organization. And again, thanks, Wes, or I should say Professor Turner, to invite us to
Wes is good.
to have our pitch here. I have just a few slides for you, and hopefully that'll be clear. And of course, we will stay on Discord. I have actually one of my colleagues, Cindy Lee, also here. She is our expert, so you can ask any technical questions, and which hopefully we'll be able to answer them. All right, so let me, as I said, just a few slides here. All of you are using Linux, right? I understand that all of you are very techies. I always happy to talk to students, college students. Just before the end of the year in December, we did a round table, a panel to talk about open source and open source on the different platforms. I enjoy it very much. So hopefully in the future I'll have a chance to do something like that with you guys. But Linux is the same Linux everywhere, right? And you might recognize here some of the processor architectures, right? Most of what you work on the cloud, for example, it's based on x86, but you have ARM, ARM64, and others. I want to get your attention to processor architecture S390X, okay? So S390X, also known as mainframes, and maybe some of you have heard of it, maybe you heard it from maybe your parents or maybe your grandparents. They've been around for a long, long time. And some of the most important applications, enterprise applications in the world, run on this hardware. They look like this now. This is a IBM Z one frame, what you see there on the screen. And I want to tell you just so you, if you're very new to this, I assume for most of you the first time that you see something like this, and because I know all of us are techies, let me just give you a few numbers here, a few stats, just to try to impress you here. By far, one of the best platforms for cryptography. Most of the cryptography advancements have been on this platform. We can execute up to 1 trillion web transactions per day in one of these. You can scale up to 2.4 million Docker containers. It might be small containers, but that many Docker containers there. And the stat that I'm the most impressed about is 275 gigabytes of data per second. Compression. Let me say that again. You can compress 275 gigabytes of data per second, which is amazing, right? And you can have up to 40 terabytes of RAM in this server. So don't get too excited. We probably won't give you this much capacity, but the idea is to give you access to one of these. By the way, just what I was mentioning earlier, the largest enterprises in the world, pretty much any banking transaction that is happening in the world, financial transaction, when you use a debit card, a credit card, anything that when you get a bill, anything that is around billing for your phone, for your mobile phone, or for anything else, it's very likely that all that processing happened in one of these servers, in one of these IBM Z or Linux One, which are the two models commonly known as mainframes. We like to call them IBM Z and Linux One. But pretty amazing. It is global, and by the way, also obviously government and academia. In fact, my dad used, going back to the old picture, he used that way back when you have punch cards, and he was using mainframes back in the 70s. So we come a long way, but these are modern, cloud-based, fully virtualized. You can use virtualization, containers, pretty much all the latest technologies, which brings me to my point here. This is the ecosystem of open source software that we have for this processor architecture, S390X. These are not all of them. These are not all of them, but I tried to put on this slide the kind of the most recognizable open source names. Other than Red Hat and SUSE there on the left for Linux, everything else is open source software. All these logos are open source software, right? I mean, no company names, but software names. So here's the invitation, and here's what we want to invite you to contribute. Most of the open source is more than the 115 that were on the previous slide, of course, right? There are actually millions of open source software libraries out there. Most of them is built on x86 processors, and the idea is to make them multi-platform. So the idea is to invite you to go and port, or in some cases not even that port, but just to validate this open source software on one of these servers, on this S390X processor architecture. What do we want? You can choose any open source project that you want. Obviously, we're interested on some of the most popular ones that are not in this list. Maybe there are a few more here, but we're looking to add to this list. And we're also interested on AI, anything related to AI, machine learning, deep learning. There's a ton of open source there. We'd love to also bring that to the platform, right? And then we'll just make it available, access to one of these. We'll probably give you access to a one VM, right? And then you can go and work on the open source software. And in some cases, some of them might be just a matter of a couple of hours for you. Some of them might be maybe a couple of days. So you can actually go and some might take more longer, yeah, to be fair. But you could be doing one or two or many as part of this exercise. So here is really quick, and I don't want to take too much of your time. Here, just high-level steps, and we're happy to answer any questions. Because it's a different processor architecture, just like Linux, it's the same Linux, but you have to build it or compile it on the platform, right? So you do that. If there are errors at the time that you're building it or you're compiling, obviously you have to go and review those errors and try to address them. You want to test it properly, make sure that it works on the different platforms, that you make it actually multi-platform, and then make those contributions back upstream, right? Back to as a pull request back to the community. You can approach the community. We can coach you on that. You can approach the community maybe before you start and see if they are kind of willing to go the direction that you want to take, or you just do the work, go on and explain and send the pull request. In some cases, you might need to add some documentation or some, maybe a build script. But that's in a nutshell. That's the scope, and you have the opportunity to work on many different open source projects. A couple of quick things just to clarify just before I'm done here. For the most part, depending on the programming languages, for the most part, it's very little work. It's more about the testing, and in some cases, if there's low-level memory use, then you might have to go from little endian to big endian. Hopefully, all of you covered that on your previous lessons. But it's about, if you don't remember, it's about where do you put the most significant byte or least significant byte. If you put it first, if you put it at the end, that's an area where we have a lot of expertise and happy to also assist. That will be the only thing. Other than that, is more about for you to get familiar with the code, kind of understand the community, work with the community, and be part of it. So that's pretty much it. There have links there, and the slides are available to get access to what we call the Linux One Community Cloud. And then you can look at the available open source, validated open source software. When I said validated by our IBM team in that link, and then there's more software there on Docker Hub. So I leave it there, Wes.
This is cool. I hadn't realized this was where you were going.
Yeah.
This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah.
I'll have to take a good look at that list and see if there's any projects that I that I think we could pull across.
A lot of AI, machine learning, where we want to do that. So we don't have a lot of machine learning AI related software. So we'd love to for you guys to help us with that as well.
Awesome. Let's see. I think we have got one more now. Cool. Submitti, our last project is also our last RPI project. I think this is Shail and Vikram.
Yep, we're here. Do you have the slide, or should I share my screen to kind of?
Why don't you share your screen, because I don't know that I have the slide. I might.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah. All right. Here we go. All right. So hello everyone. This is Submitti, RPI's auto grading and homework submission system. I'm sure you all are familiar with it, or at least will be, especially in this online environment. So we are basically looking to continue supporting the instructors and students at RPI by continuing to develop new features that might ease in this online learning and existing homework setups. So we're looking for a couple of new developers. The technologies we use is like pretty typical LAMP stack. So it's PHP, PostgreSQL, Python, with the Apache web server sitting in a Linux environment. But if you're not familiar with any of those technologies, that's perfectly fine. We can mentor you to kind of get you up to speed and help develop the system from whatever ground knowledge you do know. But that said, we are asking for about 10 hours per week just to be able to learn everything required and to be really able to contribute to the system just because of the scale and scope of Submitti at this point. So if you are interested, we suggest you pick 3 to 5 issues that interest you. We have that linked to our GitHub issue tracker, which are labeled with good first issues on the slide, and to email Professor Cutler, who kind of overviews the Submitti project for us. And I'll make sure to post this slide in the chat or somewhere accessible after this. And yeah, we have a couple of Submitti developers also on this meeting who have started pretty recently, so they can kind of like talk about some of the projects or features that they've worked out and what they've learned from working on Submitti.
Yeah, so Submitti was my first open source project and also like my first RCOS project. And what I worked on last semester was mainly redesigning some of the instructor and grader interface for the office hours queue, and also some polling stuff because that software is pretty new as well. So I worked on those 2 things, and I learned a lot of different like languages that I hadn't done any coding in before, like PHP, HTML, and also some database stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good learning experience, and like Shail said, even if you don't have any experience before, you can still come on and join because they're really good people for mentoring you and really experienced developers. So I think it's a really good opportunity, and we'd love it if some people came and joined us.
Hey, and I'm Jensen. I'm another person who's been working on Submitti, and I've been primarily working on bug fixes just everywhere around Submitti. And yeah, so if you are looking into finding bugs, Submitti does have a number of bugs that you can help find and fix. And something else, if you are looking into issues, some of the issues are labeled like good first issue. So you might want to look into those when you're looking for issues that might interest you. So yeah.
All right, thanks guys. Yeah, that's everything from us.
Awesome. I can't believe you guys actually said that Submitti has bugs or issues.
They're new developers. They don't understand that Submitti has no bugs and is perfect.
Submitti is perfect. Submitti has always been perfect.
I like to think so,
Exactly.
or at least that's what I tell myself at night.
All right. Where can you get Submitti stickers? In general, I could give them out, but I don't have access to any of you. We'll explore that over this semester.
There are special Submitti developer stickers if you are interested as an added bonus.
Cool.
the only reason I joined, actually. Just for the stickers.
All right. Are you guys you guys are gonna hang around in Discord for a little bit for us too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on then. Hunter?
Okay, so here we have a list of all the people who have been accepted as mentors. So congratulations to everyone who is on this list. There should be more communications coming out to you shortly, I believe. But I don't think that's finalized yet, to my knowledge. So, beep. We do still have the call for mentors though, because this list is not as long as it potentially could be. So it is not too late if you want to be on that list as well. Definitely sign up and we will hopefully get you over onto that list as well. Then definitely check out the previous slides for some of the information about details, like the previous day slides, and the announcements channel for more information there too. Beep.
Okay, now the stressful part. Project pairing. So I spent all morning trying to set up the Discord for this, so hopefully it goes smoothly. Next slide. Quick, very important note that I don't want to forget to go through. The way we're doing project pairing this semester so that we have a single real list of who is in RCOS, who is on what project. We are asking that everyone, even if you were taking RCOS for experience only, as in 0 credits, as in you have not enrolled, we ask that you still go onto the submittee, since we're going to be using submittee to coordinate creating the teams. So if you are not on submittee, as in if it does not show up for you when you log into submittee with your RCS ID, please fill out the form in the due dates channel on Discord. And we will add you to submittee. I believe it takes like a day or two for you to pop up, but we ask that you do this as soon as possible, since as we're going to describe in a few slides, we're using submittee to actually organize the teams. Next slide. Okay, so what is project pairing? Quick note, you can read all about it in the handbook if you'd like to, but if you are unfamiliar with project pairing, a little bit of information on it. This is how potential members in different projects figure out what they want to work on and who they want to work with. So we created a text and a voice channel on Discord. If you scroll all the way down on the left under the project pairing category, every project should have a text and voice channel. Project leads, at least for the internal RCOS projects, should have the project lead role. Oh, there you go. If you scroll all the way, already some of you are waiting in there, which is great, the project leads. And we're just going to ask that following the end of this meeting, right after attendance, so make sure you get your attendance in. If you can, hop over to Discord, jump into voice channels. Project leads, we ask that you get in your voice channels if you're available. We're not requiring this, of course. We know there's a bunch of different time zones. Hop in there if you can. People can hop in, chat with you, and if you are interested in using voice chat, please keep an eye on the text chat if you're a project lead. And if you're project members, check out multiple projects. Since we don't have rules for kind of the size of projects, or it really depends on the project, make sure if you're a team member, as in you're not running a project, but you're joining one, talk to multiple different projects, just in case you end up not being able to get into the one you wanted. So definitely look at the wide variety, especially the external projects this semester, which we have a huge amount of. Check out multiple projects, even if you don't know if you're going to join them or not. And over the weekend, you can continue in the text channels, discussing with project leads and all that. So definitely keep an eye on it. It's not just for today. Next slide. So this is the important part, how we are actually forming projects. Project leads, and currently this is going for internal RCOS projects. We'll reach out to the external projects and figure out how we'll set this up. But for internal RCOS projects, project leads, you should now be able to create a team on Submittee. It'll say it's for the project proposal, I believe. Create a team, and when you have people discussing with you and you both agree that you'd like them to be in your team, invite them with their RCS ID onto your team. This is why everyone needs to be on Submittee. So if you're not on Submittee and you want to join a team, it's important that you get onto Submittee. Otherwise, we might not have in our RCOS internal records that you exist. And we want to make sure that we know you exist. This is going to be due by next meeting. And it's not a super hard deadline, but please, please, please try to get your teams figured out by the next meeting. Next slide.
Hunter?
All right. Yep. Got to find the mute button. So what's happening next class? So following today, obviously we're doing the project pairing today, but next time the small groups are going to be formed. Tuesday is the deadline for that. And hopefully by then you will have joined your team on Submittee and all that will be good to go. Mentors will also be assigned to small groups. That form will be released for mentor requests by then. Like if you want to, for example, say you're a group and you want to choose a mentor preference, we'll have a form for that. And then projects will begin working on their proposal. Beep.
And speaking of the proposal, we'll remind you what this is on Tuesday as well, since that's when we're going to start you to ask you to start working on it. The project proposal is something we require from every single project. It's a simple document. You can see an example on the right. In fact, that was one of my projects from a few semesters back. This is one per team. So normally this is something the project lead takes the lead over, but feel free to, of course, incorporate your team members if you have them figured out by then into the proposal. Check out the handbook for details on what we need in the proposal. It's pretty simple. The name of your project, the overall description, and a list of milestones. So for details, check out that link. We'll post that in the server. It's in the handbook. You can see it on the left, and you'll be able to start working on that. You could start working on it now if you're a project lead, and you'll be able to fill out your team members in that and everything once you start building your team. That's what you'll be submitting on Submittee with your team. So please make sure you create your team, start inviting people as you chat, and then start working on your project proposal. And as for how big a team can be in the chat, we don't necessarily have limits. We recommend, like if you look at my proposal on the right here in the example, that was too big. That was too big for me to run. Some projects are pretty big and they split them up into subgroups. So it depends on the project. If you're a new project lead, I recommend going with a smaller group. But if you have questions as a project lead, reach out to any coordinators or mentors or previous project leads, and they'll give you ideas about the size of that. Next slide. And lastly, from me, it's a little late for this, but still, I hope this doesn't apply to anyone. If you are an RCOS project lead, right now an internal project, so if you are a RPI student running a project, we don't know you exist unless you have filled out that Google form posted in the due dates channel. Please do so. You'll know that you haven't done this if you don't have the project lead role, or if you wanted to pitch your project and you don't see a channel there. So this is how we are figuring out what projects exist this semester. Make sure you have filled that out. That's all for me. Now on to attendance, I believe. I don't think we can hear you, Professor.
Okay. So I think as we go through this, I just want to kind of clarify. I think for external projects, as you define your team, just pick one of the students to be your hands, your eyes and ears.
Yes,
I think is probably the easiest way to do it. That way you don't have to be on Submittee, and these should all be collaborative decisions anyway, or the project lead. Your external projects should have their own goals. And to the extent that we can hit those, that would be great. Submissions, 3 ways to attend. Remember, there are 3 ways to mark your attendance. If you're on Venue, and here's the link to join it, you can scan the QR code I'm about to show you. or after I post this recording later on tonight, you can go to the venue website and just view it all the way through. The other way you can do it is you can go to Submittee and you can submit the code that I'm about to show you. So let me kind of cycle through this a second. I had this all queued up a long time ago. That's not it. There we go. So the venue QR code is here. Hopefully you can see that. If you're on the venue site and you scan that in, that should be good for you. And for Submittee, the item is, no, I'm in the wrong. I keep clicking on project proposals. I don't have a project to propose right now. I have the attendance. You want to go to the attendance one instead. And as a little shout out to our external projects, the secret phrase today is external projects, external space projects space, and then a smiley face. I'll paste that into the chat. That's there. As Frank said, we're going to move off to breakout rooms now. I do want to, as we're doing that, I'm going to start a slideshow with all of the presenters. The front slide, at least, from all of the presentations we've had over the last 2.5 days. If you're confused upon, if you don't remember, or you remember something, you thought something was cool, it's going to it's just going to cycle through all of the slides, and you'll be able to kind of look at those for the next hour or so. I do want to just throw one more thing out there. We have a large number of external projects today. We have the IBM projects grouped into the IBM group. IBM people, we did that because we thought that was most convenient for you. But if that's not the case, we can break you out into separate groups. Otherwise, you'll find one group per project. Please, if you don't have a solid project or you're not sure what you want to do, the external projects have some really big advantages. One, you get a chance to work with some people actually doing this in the real world. It's very easy to get caught up in the idea that open source is just for college, and you're just doing it because you're messing around. These people are making money off it, right? It's a lifestyle, it's a way of thinking, and it's you can live off it, which is good. And you're going to get some really good experience. We also, as some of the open source projects, we have some things like the Open Energy Dashboard, Albany Can Code, Call for Code. All of these are very humanitarian types of projects. So if you're looking for something that not only is going to make a difference in the world, but it's also going to do some good as well, please look at those. They have multiple dimensions. So, again, I'm just going to throw it out there that we have a glory of riches right now, and I would love for us to make as much of that as we possibly can, by kind of reaching out to these people who are gracious enough to come and talk to us. All right, I'm going to stick around in this room. I'm going to start up slides, and I'm going to sit here to answer questions if you guys have any. So I'll be here till 6:35. I'm going to let you guys go now. Please go and join the Discord. Stephen, did you post the Discord earlier? Could somebody post that back in again just in case there are issues? And if anybody has problems, I am sitting here, so you come back in, and I can fix anything in the Discord that we need to do. Thank you, Ben. Go forth and pair projects.